past the hour. We thank you for staying with the Daily Report right here on TV47. Time now for that important conversation with my guest, Super Senator, nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Indeed, it's a new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. How is yours coming along?
I'm optimistic, yes.
Has the dust settled in the Senate for you?
I am working my way, yeah.
What does that entail?
I wouldn't say it has settled, because of course we haven't really settled the issues that were there, but I'm working my way around it because you know life must go on.
Yeah.
And I still know that I'm privileged enough to have been nominated to the Senate.
Yeah.
So I have no choice but to deliver and to do what took me there, which is to represent women and girls and to, you know, find a way to work things out in a legislative agenda, oversight.
Yeah.
And in my free time, the community work that I've been doing. Yeah.
In speaking about communities and all, this conversation is happening a week after the missing head of the slain JKU student was confirmed to be hers today. This, of course, has brought to the fore, rather again, the conversation on femicides, the violence against women. And we did see your thread on X about, you know, even as you blame, and I quote, a polite reminder that even as you blame the female members of parliament for not speaking up enough, for not being loud enough, for not being active enough, you were suspended from the Senate for 6 months for reporting harassment. A complete smear campaign was then engineered to further shame you, and you, the victim, was blamed as the aggressor was protected. You ask Kenyans to remember that.
Yeah, because there has been a lot of uproar. In fact, I've had people literally send me messages saying, umenyamaza, you're just quiet when our girls are being tortured, abused, raped, and I have not been quiet. I have been shouting at the top of my voice ever since. And it's not ever since I got to Senate, ever since I've been a woman, you know? And sometimes it can be so frustrating because it's not that we lack legislation. Yeah. We have legislation. Yes. It's not that we lack the frameworks in terms of even convictions. The judicial process has been clearly stipulated. We even went a step further and created gender desks, yeah? So sometimes I'm like, what can I do as an individual? So in this particular situation, in fact, I was saying, I'm not going to put out a statement. Perhaps what I can do is get normal voices of normal Kenyans, you know, survivors of this kind of situations to come and tell us, okay, this is the real story. This is what happens. And then we try and connect that with interventions or mitigations that we can put. Because sometimes, honestly, it's a bit frustrating. I can tell you, I am personally frustrated because I know for a fact that I have not been quiet, that I continue to speak up. It has almost costed me my position in the Senate. And it's still on a very shaky ground as of now. So I'm feeling a bit like, what more can I do? Yeah.
We're looking at the statistics, the number of deaths since 2016, data according to Africa Data Hub. 2018 seemed to have been the worst year. There was less numbers recorded, sort of some improvement in 2022, whereas that's, I mean, a death is a death. But now we seem to be going up back again in 2023. And the highest number, the population of, rather, those who are killing the women, the relationship of suspect to the victim, the highest prevalence is the husband, then followed by the boyfriend, then a stranger, a friend known to the victim, ex-husband, family member, then ex-boyfriend, in that order. Do you think then that the society as it is seems not to be learning from the past?
Not really. I think we are not listening. That's what I think. Actually, you have given the statistics of the relationship between the murderer. Let's call them murderers, here, because they are killing people. Between the murderers and the victims is now what we call the intimate partner violence, IPV, where it is someone you know, you trust, you're familiar with, and it just happens, and you can't, those two incidences can't be, you can't relate, it's not a stranger.
Yeah.
So you, at any one point, you're not exactly feeling threatened. And I think that is, for me, that's one place we haven't really addressed. And most of the times, even when we're dealing with issues on the intimate partner violence, we tend to always lean on, let's teach our girls, let's teach our women how to defend themselves. And we forget that if there was no threat, the girls and the women would not need to be taught how to defend themselves. So if we continue teaching the women and the girls how to defend themselves, are we really solving the problem? Because they're defending themselves from what? From a threat. Why is there a threat? That is the question. Are you saying it's a moral decay in terms of there's a threat because of a moral decay? But if you ask me, it's a culture that has been inculcated, a culture of violence. And I'm not just talking about physical violence.
Yeah.
There is psychological violence. You know, it progresses. If today I just abuse you by just verbal abuse, yeah? And it continues repeatedly. Then one day I feel like verbal abuse is not enough. I'm probably going to threaten to slap you. It will only progress. So if we cannot even talk about the issue of where is this violence coming from, then we'll continue teaching a whole generation of girls and women how to defend themselves, but we are not going to deal with the threat, which is the men, which is the boys. What culture are we inculcating in our boys? I am a mother of a 16-year-old son. And I can tell you, I'm not trying to say I'm perfect or anything. I'm still learning the parenting ropes here and there.
Okay.
But a simple thing of how do you teach your boy to be a gentleman? You know? Sometimes even a basic thing, you're standing waiting to get into the elevator. You're a lady, you're a woman, you're a girl, and there are all these boys pushing you aside so that they can get into the lift before you. Yeah. It starts with those small things. Because at what point do you teach our boys to be gentlemen, to respect girls, to value girls, to protect them? How many times have you seen incidences where there is a woman being attacked, and yes, there's that one person who's recording. We thank you for the one person who records. But then there's several gentlemen observing, doing nothing, not protecting, not offering. That is now the culture that we need to talk about, not the culture of how are we going to teach our girls to carry pepper spray. Why are they carrying pepper spray? You know?
Yeah, quite some pertinent issues raised, and we indeed hope that, you know, that we see an end to these cases of violence.
And maybe let me add one thing there.
Yes.
Because people are saying, you know, you can't speak from the outside as if you're not government, yeah? Okay. Because, yes, I am nominated from the leading party, which is in government, and I do work, let me say, yes, I am government, yeah? And people say, so what can you do about government? My first thing is, we need to be intentional. I spoke to the advisor, the gender advisor to the president, Harriet. And I said, Harriet, you know, I'm asking myself, what can we do? Me as a person, forget the women and this amorphous group that people create. I said, I'm going to take up the challenge on the gender desks. Why aren't the gender desks in the police stations not working? Because like the issue of Matara, so many women reported this particular individual for harassment, for all sorts of things, prior to him finally killing that lady. That lady, yeah. What happened? Why didn't that gender desk take it seriously? Why didn't they do it? What went wrong? Because if that person was detained and action taken, and probably to the extent of a conviction, we would not have a death. So we need to ask ourselves, for me, I would say one thing that I have purpose to do as an individual within government is I will intentionally engage who needs to be engaged to fix the problem that we're having at the gender desk. Because you can put up a hotline, but as long as the gender desk is not working, so it's like a customer care desk. You just call and wait and wait and wait, and they take you around in circles. So that's one thing that I can do, and I can engage different authorities, the Ministry of Gender, the advisor, police service, because it's something that I think we should fix. But then what else can government do? I've been talking about this data issue because we're talking, if we were able to regulate the industry of digital taxis. Yes. You know, at one point, all these digital taxis never had physical offices. But we were able to regulate that to an extent that now all digital taxis, Bolt, Uber, Little Cab, whatever, have physical offices. Therefore, you can actually go somewhere and ask questions and hold a whole company accountable. Try and get Airbnb to even sit here. They are not, there's no physical presence of them, yet they have people working to verify this real estate agents. So why can't that be regulated? I can tell you, my data protection bill that I have fronted in Senate is talking about data protection to the extent of regulating these online platforms, that they must have physical presence, that they must store the data locally, so that in an incident where you have crime, it is easy even for us as a government, as an institution, either police service or who, to access that data without having to go through jurisdictions of data. Let's say you are storing it in a cloud somewhere, you have to make sure that you follow their own legal procedures. You understand? So that is something that I'm doing from a legislative perspective. But I can tell you, the process of getting a bill passed, from drafting to it becoming law, is bureaucratic. And that's what I'm already dealing with now. But that is an issue that Communication Authority can pick up and say, hey, we are having deaths in Airbnb. Because how come you're not dying in hotels? How come you're only dying in Airbnbs? How come murderers have... Because they have seen a loophole where crime, it's a thriving environment for crime. So therefore, that is something that government can do tomorrow by just drafting a regulation, taking it to the Committee of Delegated Legislation under Communication Authority. But
the bureaucracy?
No, that's just now intentionality. Just somebody needs to stand up and say, listen, this is a regulation, and not somebody. That one, by the way, can fall under the Ministry of ICT, because they can draft a regulation and send to Senate and National Assembly and say, moving forward, all this online real estate, whatever's Airbnbs and whatever, must have physical presence. Because you know what that will do? That will force them to add extra security measures, because now they know that they are a company operating under Kenyan laws and actually liable. Yeah.
Perhaps that such initiatives will be able to bear fruit. Senator, we did see, shifting gears, we did see what happened today, the meeting between the three arms of government.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to pick your mind on, whereas it has elicited mixed reactions, the meeting between especially the Chief Justice and the President. When you heard that that meeting was taking place, what came through your mind?
I was happy, because any form of dialogue is good. Just the other day, we had Azimio pushing for BBI. That was a form of dialogue. Building bridges initiative. It was supposed to build bridges across board. So, I mean, for me, I'm all about dialogue. So for me, it was like, okay, it seems that we have a stalemate. Everybody anajipiga kifua, like, I am judiciary, I'm going to stand like this, I'm going to do this. I am executive, I'm going to have my powers, legislative agenda as well, everyone. So for me, the idea of having dialogue is the beginning of solving issues that would just pile up and form some form of, it would simmer up, and it would, when you look at our past, let's say 2007, 2008, it was also like we were building up all these unresolved issues, not having dialogue to the extent that we just needed one trigger. So for me, I was happy to know that at least we have learned from our past and we are now initiating dialogue. But also, let me say this. I know that they have discussed about budget, the judiciary budget, the allocation, and that more resources are required. I know that they have also discussed about human resource in terms of the number of judges, both in Court of Appeal and in the High Court. I think it was 25 and 11 that they're suggesting should be added. And I also know that they have discussed on, so it was the human resource, the budgetary allocation, and how to solve the conflicts within the judicial system.
As well as corruption.
Yes, as well as corruption. Now, here's my thing. Those people who are saying that judiciary should not sit down with anyone, how has those three agenda items, how have they in any way compromised the independence of the judiciary? They haven't. If judiciary is saying we need capacity, we need more resources, And we know the way currently how our budgets are structured, somehow there is still that interdependence between the executive and the judiciary, which we are trying to make independent so that it is not the executive saying, I'm giving you money or I'm not giving you money. But discussing on how justice should be given to all Kenyans in a swift manner does not compromise the judiciary.
The argument has been, Mheshimiwa, that it will compromise or coerce or sort of be a deal or butter to the bread of, giving or issuing judgments or rulings by the
That is so far-fetched because, if someone tells you that now Court of Appeal, we lack 11 judges, and we are discussing on how to bring 11 judges, and let's say government has 2 or 3 cases in the Court of Appeal.
Okay.
If we have already been operating without the 11 judges, how does a conversation of increasing the efficiency actually go and affect that particular case that government has? How? Unless you're telling me that it has been such an excruciating situation where Court of Appeal is not functioning and we are really just relying on the 11 judges that we are begging you, executive, to somehow help us put. Then I would say, okay, maybe that is like you're holding them hostage for them to give a judgment. But we are operating. We are running. Ama Court of Appeal imefungwa. Si Court of Appeal is running.
It is already.
Yeah, so there's nothing that anyone is holding the other person hostage with. If it's about budgetary allocation, that is something that even goes to National Assembly, right? National Assembly is the one that ensures that depending on which year and what priority. So I'm just asking, how does that compromise even one single case in government?
Because the other thing that had been seen, the argument that has been is, when the president came in, it was a matter of the swearing in of the 6 judges who had been, not been appointed by the previous president. And then when it appeared that the judiciary was not following cue of the executive, then these bashment and these remarks started coming in that, you'll not respect court orders, rulings. What was that all about?
So let me ask you, when we came in as the Kenya Kwanza government, did we or did we not swear in those judges?
You did.
Yeah. Did that affect the judgments that we got from the judiciary? They still shut down the universal health care. They shut down affordable housing. Did they say, oh, now you've given us judges, so we're just going to give you everything that you want? No, we didn't get, you cannot say that we got all our cases as government, we got the favorable judgments because we swore in the judges. Quite the contrary, actually. Quite the contrary. If you look at how many court cases that, let me say, so to speak, government has lost, there are many. So that in itself is a case in point where executive is actually ensuring that that executive is not standing in between the way of judiciary and them being efficient. And still, we didn't get any favorable judgments because each and every case, my assumption, and I am not a lawyer and I'm not a judicial expert or whatever, but each and every case requires that the magistrate or the judge or whoever is sitting listens, look at the pointers and then decides on how they are going to give a judgment. So I think it is very amateur for anyone to say that now that we are discussing a budget increment in the judiciary, that definitely then it is sort of, cabinet is sort of buying judiciary. We gave judges on swearing in, and it did not result in favorable judgments towards government. And that should be the guideline, that whatever goes to the court, because it's also, I don't know why Kenyans want some Kenyans want to go out and give an impression that as an independent country with all these smart people, that we are all just sheep waiting to be bribed. It paints a very, very bad picture.
Perhaps that's what they've seen from the leaders.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It is a narrative that's being created, and I just hate to say this, but sometimes tujiheshimu kidogo, because if we are standing out there saying, oh, our judiciary has been captured, what has been, do you know that we have how many states in Africa looking at us wondering, what is wrong with you people? So this narrative that people want to create that actually does not exist, it is not factual. We need to also start looking within. You remember when I talked about behavioral change and culture? This culture of people thinking that it's cool and normal to just paint a bad picture about your country, that's the narrative we need to deal with.
We've seen that coming in, Mheshimiwa, from the executive and the legislature. who've also said that, the judiciary is corrupt, they're corrupt officers. Do you think that should extend to those institutions and
you see,
government?
Saying that judiciary is corrupt is like saying that some Kenyans are corrupt. Now, is it true that some Kenyans are corrupt?
It is true.
It is true. In the three arms of government, and I keep telling people, even cabinet cannot come out and say, do not mention any ministers or any PSs because our cabinet is clean, nobody is corrupt. It is not possible. It is not possible. The only thing that someone can come out and say is, I've gone through this situation and I'm seeing this, and therefore I'm putting a red flag because I think this particular individual is corrupt. And that is what is happening, because you cannot tell me that everybody in cabinet is not corrupt, but you can also not tell me that everybody in the legislative or judiciary is clean. It is impossible, because we are human beings, and there will be one or two bad apples in any group of human beings. So when I hear people saying certain judges are corrupt, I think that is Kenyans playing oversight. And what I should just urge these people who are coming out to say judiciary is corrupt is follow the due process. If I'm going to allege that an individual is corrupt, there is a process to actually follow and say, this person is corrupt, I have put my whatever, my evidence here, I have reported to this system, I have reported to that system, and to me, that is what matters. But to tell Kenyans, you can't come out and say, this one is wrong and that one we can't deal with. But also, here's my thing, you can't come out and say, all our courts have been bought. Therefore, the courts are working for the president. That is my issue, because that right there is just a lie. Because if the courts were working for the president, why are we still struggling to fix even the issue of the CASs or to fix the issue of universal health care, affordable housing? If really, truly, the president had bought the court, why would we be struggling? All of these things should have been like piece of cake, pass. Exactly.
Quite interesting. So then, what, as a senator, what would you like to see moving forward between the synergy of these three arms of government?
I am glad that the conversation has started, that dialogue has been had. And I do hope that moving forward, I expect to see that even from the cabinet side, because you also can't just be waking up and going to rallies and saying so-and-so is corrupt. No. You can say that if you have put up if you have followed the due process, I'm sitting here telling you that within the legislative space, I have been a victim. I followed the due process to report. I can speak authoritatively and tell you, I reported this person. This person was harassing me. And I can even tell you the outcome of that report. Yeah? Yes. But I cannot sit in my corner. I've not reported. I've not followed due process. Then I start waking up and saying, so-and-so has been harassing me. So, you follow the process before you come out, and say certain things are happening. Because if we all don't respect the processes, then it's not just about Kenyans not respecting the judicial process. It's also Kenyans not respecting the executive. And that will spread to Kenyans not respecting the police service. Then what's going to happen? It's going to be anarchy. So we must all respect these spaces that even if I'm going to raise a red flag, there's a process or there is a way with which you can raise it without literally interfering with the efficiency of that particular institution. Because
there is an argument or a question that came in, then how are the actions of the executive, the legislature against the judiciary, even mentioning names, how do you then undo that? Because at the end of the day, that remains to be sort of a blemish on these judicial officers, on these
I would think that is what the conversation was about. And you see, now me, I was not in that meeting. But I would imagine that in that meeting, those are some of the things that were dealt with or that they spoke about to say, listen, some wrong things have been done both against the executive and against the judiciary. So how do we move forward? Because otherwise, there is no point of having dialogue if you're not going to address those two issues. Because definitely, it's not just the judiciary that is feeling that they have been that their reputation has been tainted. Even the executive feels the same way, because when you're out here trying to implement an agenda that you promised Kenyans, that you went out and say Kenya Kwanza is going to give you universal health cover, that is going to come and give you affordable housing. You also have a reputation as a government to keep up, to say, listen, we are trying to work for you Kenyans. But it seems in this particular situation, every single step that we take to give you affordable housing is being shut down from a judicial process. That is also an issue. The executive is also feeling, okay, how are you going to address? Because when we put out a promise to Kenyans, people cannot be coming out to say Kenya Kwanza was lying about everything. Kenya Kwanza was, you people were just lying during campaign. If you look at the things that we have been doing for more than 18 months, it is actually executing what? The agenda that we promised people. And it's a bit frustrating to see that today, if you take a step to say, now we are in year 2. In year 2, we had now talked about agriculture beyond subsidy. We talked about agriculture towards infrastructure.
Okay.
Then you start implementing infrastructure, mtu ameamka na petition, na court case, na kuna injunction. I mean, we need to also be fair. But the court
usually sometimes faults the process that was not followed. It doesn't say, do not go ahead and do it. It just faults the process. Rather, the end does not justify the
I'm not a lawyer, but
yeah.
I've been told severally.
Yes.
When someone wants to shoot down an initiative and they know they have no grounds, you know what they will use? The technicalities. So you know very well that whatever George is doing is correct. But I want to shoot it down. But I can't shoot it down with facts. So let me shoot it down with the technicalities. And that is what is appearing to be a strategy that is being used as a device to slow down development.
No, but Mheshimiwa, if you look even at the affordable housing, it is now that the National Assembly is going to conduct public participation, as you've even seen today in Turkana County. And that's what the judiciary, the ruling was actually saying.
That's okay.
You should have done that first.
That's okay. We take the advice, we heed the advice, and we go back to the drawing board. But let me ask you, in a situation for universal health care.
The social health insurance.
Yes. So where does that leave Kenyans? Is the law that you're creating supposed to push development or hinder life and development? Is the question. Every time we legislate there and we sit and we say it has to be constitutional, whatever you're legislating, is it in the interest of Kenyans to push development, or are you actually legislating against the livelihoods of Kenyans? And that's why I say sometimes you look at it and you know you're wrong, but you use technicality. So it is like, I cannot hinder government from providing health care because constitutionally, everyone has a right to health care. So what I can do, I will shoot the process and the technicality of how they want to provide the health care. And then what do? You slow down the process of what government is trying to provide to its people. Government is trying to say there are so many people at hospitals who just want to access affordable health care. And then you are saying, that's okay, and we understand, but you're going to have to give us 1 year because we want to take you around in circles behind on how we are going to do NHIF. And that is the issue. The issue is, are you actually legislating for development, or are you legislating and using it as an instrument to slow down development towards Kenya? Yeah.
Of course, pertinent questions, pertinent points that Mheshimiwa Gloria Orwoba is bringing up right here on the Daily Report. We're due for a short break. When we come back, we continue with the conversation. I can see your feedback coming. Agri Karani from Rongo, I see your question. Of course, I shall be forwarding and fielding that to the Mheshimiwa right here in studio. You're watching the Daily Report. You're back in a few minutes to stay with us.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni. hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for. That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili.
Welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report right here on TV47, the home of Untold Stories. Time to continue the conversation with my guest, that is Senator Gloria Orwoba. Senator, there is a question from Agri Karani from Rongo who asks, who says, I really love Gloria very much. She is always fighting for females' rights, women's rights. I would love for you to ask her, what are we as a country should do in order to have more female leaders in positions of power? Perhaps speaking to the two-thirds gender rule?
Yes. First, I don't think we should nominate them.
Okay.
Yeah. I've said this before. The nomination, I'm happy, I'm privileged to be nominated. I mean, I would not trade this for nothing.
Yeah.
But I want to be very honest. The nominated positions have been made to feel as a second class. You're not like a real legislator. You're like a legislator, but you're not a real legislator. So what happens is that it then creates a number 2 position for women. So you're actually encouraging. I feel like the way it has been structured now, there's so many things that are wrong or that were not really thought through, that I feel we need to be more intentional on how to get women elected. So for starters, and I say this, and I don't fear, and you know me, I don't fear anyone.
You don't fear.
You know, like now, if you go and look at all the 16 women who've been nominated to the Senate, for instance, you'll find only 3 are politicians. And so those 16, in the next election, probably at the very most 5 will vie. So you've wasted 5 years giving position to 16 women, you understand, who 10 of them will not vie. So what's the essence? Because nomination is supposed to be a springboard to get elected. But then you go and pick an accountant who has nothing to do with politics. They don't even care about that thing. Yani, they are just there to earn a salary. And you know, okay, fine, they're kind of interested in legislation. Let's see how it will take us. But they don't have any passion for politics. They don't have any passion to get elected. So those are some of the things that I always look at and I say, you know what? after 5 years of being nominated, unfortunately, that cohort of 16 nominated, only probably 3, 4, or 5 were politicians who will vie. Now, if you put it on a probability, those 3, 4, or 5 will vie. On a good day, maybe 2 will get elected. So have you really added to the numbers? Has the nomination helped to add to the numbers of the elective? No, it hasn't. So some of those things should be looked into. Like, and I keep on saying, if there was a law that could be passed like last night, it should be one that says everyone vies and only the number 2 in every single constituency or whatever are considered to be nominated. So
because
it is,
they showed the will.
yeah, because they showed the will, and because we can see if you can go and vie and come back as a number 2, definitely if you're given another chance and if you're given a springboard, your chances of getting elected are much higher than an accountant who has nothing to do with politics, who has no intention of vying, yet they get nominated. So what we can do to be intentional about it is, number 1, don't bring mechanics to the kitchen where you're looking for chefs. Yeah, this is a political space. Bring in politicians to be nominated so that they can now work on their political skills so that they can get nominated. And another thing, these spaces that women are being, let me say, allowed.
Yes.
And I say allowed because when you're nominated, you are being, someone is saying, you have been allowed to come to the table. These spaces where women are being allowed to come to the table, they need to be made safe spaces. If you see me lamenting and complaining about some of the things that I spoke up about, including harassment, I'm trying to say, hey guys, this space, this my work environment is not safe. So if you continue to ensure that those workspaces for women are not safe, are those women really going to survive in those spaces? You see, they probably won't. Yeah? Someone was saying that we are teaching, girls should be taught how to carry pepper spray because as men, they're stronger physique-wise, which we agree. We are not going to compete about that. And men have an instinct of defense and whatever they captured. And I say, women are weak, so they need pepper spray, right? If you already know in that situation that women are weak and they need pepper spray, then in the work environment, why are women targeted as if we are the masculine ones? You see, why is it okay to say that women are weak and they should be forced to defend themselves? But when it comes to workspaces, women are treated like crap. They are paid less. They are not seen as contributors. They are treated as second-class citizens or second-class workers of that particular environment. They are not, even basic things that, and I'm not talking about having a breastfeeding zone, or I'm not talking about that stuff. That's good, that's fine, thank you, that's mandatory. It's like, we don't talk about men having urinals. Do we sit down and say, men need urinals? No, it's like standard, men need urinals, put for men urinals. So let's not talk about breastfeeding zones, that's standard. Women need breastfeeding zones. Let's not talk about it and then clap for ourselves like, oh, empowerment. No. The step that we need to go beyond is, why is it difficult for women to make it in politics? Me, I can tell you one thing. When I was campaigning, security was an issue. Because you're being groped, you're being what, you can't climb up, you're in a skirt, stories, there's an issue of security that just makes women vulnerable. So during campaign, most of them, in the campaign process, just they drop off. Yeah? And every time when we talk about let's empower women to get elected, you sit me in a room, give me tea, and start teaching me about branding. I mean, I don't want branding. Let's talk about how you're going to assist me with my security come elections, yeah? I mean, I need branding, but is that really the reason why I'm not performing better than the man? Not necessarily, yeah? Because women are even better in branding themselves. It's logistical things, financial things, for instance. Me as a woman, let's say, for instance, if you're in a household, there's a man and a woman. Me as a woman, I'm using my money for all sorts of household items, to take care of your kids, to take care of the kitchen and whatnot. So when it comes to campaign, how much savings do I have? Definitely not as much as the man. So let's just be real and talk about why are women shying away from politics. These are some of the things. When you talk about the harassment, I'm not talking about physical, that one is done. Online, today I'll post me and you in studio. The number of people who come there to call me a prostitute, a slay queen, or lipstick, they are not going to even think about, wow, those were good contributions. I really liked how you did ABCD. It will be more about how do I look, you know? And is she on the heavy side? Is she on the skinny side? That is some form of harassment that is squarely targeted at women politicians. We have seen male politicians who they get away with murder, literally shoot people in clubs and get away with it. And then we have seen women politicians who have become victims of people who have recorded them nude and they fall off the political career. It's like, oh, her nudes were leaked. That's it. She can no longer vie for women rep. Why? We had a presidential candidate whose nudes were leaked. He is a respectable consultant right now in this country. It's as if nobody remembers that those nudes were leaked. But if I write for you a list of women politicians who someone went and took photos of them when they were sleeping or in the shower or something and put them out and killed their career, it's a long list. And those are some of the things people don't want to talk about, but I'll tell you that's the truth. My biggest fear right now, and I tell people, is not a fear of my nudes coming out. My biggest fear is when my nudes come out, will I survive? You understand? Men don't think about things like that. Men don't think about how am I going to post this picture and online I'll get people to harass me. Yeah, men come and they think, today what am I talking about? I'm addressing my electorate, just straightforward issues. But women, they have tier one, they have to think about their family. What will they say about my husband, about my children? Do I have children? I don't have children. What will they say? Men don't have that to think about. So those are the things that we need to address in order for us to get women to get elected.
We're looking at, going back to another issue, but a different angle. Did you hear what the Bungoma Governor Kenneth Lusaka had to say?
And I commented on it. I think
about
it's just,
pregnant girls and teenage mothers should not be allowed back in school as a deterrent measure.
I heard what he said, and then I went ahead and heard what he tried to correct. And it's so unfortunate because he should have just shut up. He said something very horrible, saying that in our times when teenagers got pregnant, it was seen as taboo. In fact, people were more afraid of getting pregnant because they knew that they would be shunned out of the society and they wouldn't be allowed to go back to school. So he was trying to create the culture at that time, the fear of being shunned out of the society, and school reduced the teenage pregnancies. But that actually isn't the case. And then he came back to correct it, to try and say, not that he was telling people not to take their kids to school, but it would be nice if the society would fear teenage pregnancies. Now let me ask you, and that's why I said the governor should have just shut up. Some of those things you think as a man who just does not know the issues that women face, but you don't speak them, you keep quiet in your corner. Now, a teenager who has been molested or raped, how is that teenager's fault? How do you then now go back to fault them how dare you get pregnant? Unless you're saying all our teenage girls must be put on mandatory birth control because we are anticipating that you're going to rape them. And in the event that you rape them, we want them not to get pregnant. So, dear parents, put your girls in. But unless you're saying that. Because if you ask me, that child has done nothing wrong. That is a victim. Then you further go to shun that victim. Then the question became, this teenage girl did not become pregnant alone. What happens to the boys? Because sometimes it is child parents, meaning both the boy and the girl are underage. Yeah? What happens to the boy? Also, in the governor's thought process, will the boy also be kept out of school? Because he only talked about the girls being kept out of school. I just think, and this is why we need female leaders. Sometimes I look at some of the utterances of our leaders, and you think, if we had more female governors, if we had more female politicians, female leaders, maybe the men who do not really think through some of the things they say would be able to borrow a leaf or two from those female leaders. Because right now it's male-dominated, and hence you get people like Governor Lusaka saying teenage girls should not go to school.
Mheshimiwa, what is there a tiff between you and Mheshimiwa Sylvana Sasoro?
No, there isn't. And if you say that, then that means I have a tiff with everyone that I criticize. No, there isn't. Silvana Sosoro, Mheshimiwa Silvana Sosoro, is a leader who I respect very much. And I think he's done very well as a young leader from Kisii County, because for a long time, Kisii County has had a culture of having 50-plus-year-olds in leadership. So that far he has come. I respect him, and I think he's done a commendable job to that extent. But we all fall short of the glory. Yes? And somebody must tell you, umekosea. And I think that's what I did. I was like, this is wrong. You cannot use force, you cannot use intimidation, you cannot use fear on your political opponent. And I have said that with other people, not only Mheshimiwa Soro. In fact, during campaign, I was reminding someone, telling people, you know, it is Kenya Kwanza that was saying, freedom is coming. You remember when Benjamin Washiali was being harassed by policemen, by the rogue government in the past? I was one of the people saying, don't worry, freedom is coming. The police will not be misused. So, and I still stand by those remarks. Yes, I stand by those remarks. So even when now I'm in government, I'll tell you, no, we fought for freedom. Now we cannot be the same people misusing the police service for whatever reason. So I still call it out, and I still tell people that that is not anything that the Kenya Kwanza government condones. And as a matter of fact, the party leader is not and will never be happy with anyone who uses that kind of force for any kind of reason. You understand? So people made an assumption that, that is the Kenya Kwanza position. That is their culture. No, it is not. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, you said it's been 18 months since, you know, this government came into office.
Has it been 18 or more?
Just about 17.
17?
Yes. So looking at the performance, I know you've had this discussion before about the rating and how this government is performing. The concerns that have been there, Mheshimiwa, is that fine, these programs that are coming in, it's okay, affordable housing. We've had that discussion about, you know, those who have raised questions about whether they need houses specifically in these areas and why you need to force houses on people. The question now then becomes, well, you made promises about housing, about health. Will the next promise that this administration, this government establishes be a precipice upon which more taxes shall be bedeviled on Kenyans?
First, I need to make it clear that promises are not being thought through every night. Everything that is being implemented was sold to the people of Kenya before we got elected. We have a Kenya Kwanza manifesto called The Plan.
The Plan, yes.
Yes. That plan was launched and it was sensitized all through nationwide. And that plan actually came about from all the economic forums that we as a government went around. You remember that time when we were campaigning?
Did you tell them that there would be more taxes under which these programs would be implemented?
Yes. Yes.
So your electorate is beginning to wonder?
No. What is happening is, as opposition, you have to do something, right? You can't just be opposition sitting by the sidelines. So opposition is doing their work.
Okay. Yeah. So you went to the economic forums.
We went to the economic forums. Personally, because I was very involved in the Nyanza economic region and the Kisii and Nyamira economic forums. And that same framework is what was done through all the counties. And you know, when we were going to the economic forums, we were asking people, come, tell us, what do you think as a person? Why would you vote for anyone to come in? And people would come. For instance, in Kisii, people came and said, you know, this soapstone has been an issue. We have never really benefited from soapstone. This is something that we mine, we work hard, we are creative around it, but we just never get returns. And we asked them, the president at that time, the deputy president, would sit there and say, why do you think you don't? And they would tell you, because they are brokers, or because this, or because we need what. And the views and that feedback formed the plan. So the plan is not a making of the president. And the plan is not a making of an individual. The plan is actually a making of the Kenyan people collectively through all the economic forums that we went through. Even the Kenya Kwanza Women Charter that I was at the forefront leading is a making of the women of Kenya who came and told us, these are the things that we need to do if you guys are going to get into office. I even remember bringing together the civil society. That I did as an individual. I brought together the civil society in one room, and at that time, my party leader, as the deputy president and a candidate aspiring to lead those people, asked them, and I remember it was in Karen, all these leaders of all these NGOs, and asked them, what is it that you would like for a government to do for you as the civil society space? And they articulated their issues, and based on that, it formed some of the things like the Women Charter, the Education and Teachers Charter, you know, all these other charters that came, even the People with Disability Charter, we had that. All these other charters that came outside of the economic blocks were actually formulated from the people. So it is very wrong and misleading for opposition to come and say, you people are sleeping, then you're waking up at night with an idea, and then you come and say, oh, now this is the idea, and then you tax people. No, the plan has been there, was launched, and Kenyans know. There are people who will tell you, me, I only voted for William Ruto because he told me atashukisha fertilizer. There are people who will tell you, me, I only voted for him because he told me as Boda Boda, I will access a hustler fund, which we have implemented. So all these things have already been endorsed by Kenyans. And what is happening is, Kenya Kwanza is taking the hard decisions to finally, as the only government, deliver promises that we had pre-election. You know, Kenyans, most other, especially the opposition who are speaking, they are used to giving promises. Then ukiapishwa, you're like, forget about those things, their campaign. So the discomfort that you're sensing is because as a country, we have never gotten a president or a presidential candidate who has promised a manifesto, who has given a manifesto and promised against it, and actually gone ahead to deliver.
We have never?
We have never.
How about Mwai Kibaki then?
Show me the manifesto against what he delivered.
But at least
you know what I'm trying to say is
free education that was
maybe that one thing. And you know, if we just picked one thing, for instance, if we just focused on the hustler fund only, we would not be having conversations about affordable housing. We would have also said we brought hustler fund and that's it. We could have just picked one thing. We could have actually, forget hustler fund, we could have picked one thing and say, we are just going to focus on agriculture. And we give subsidized fertilizer and forget about affordable housing, forget about healthcare, forget about, because that, the discomfort is that we are actually very intentional to deliver on each and every promise. And I can tell you there were a lot of promises. You know, I'm still knocking at the door daily to talk to the president, telling him, we need pads. That is a promise that we had in the Kenya Kwanza women. And the diapers. Yeah, and the diapers. And you can imagine, by the time we get there, people are complaining about healthcare. Now, a very simple question. People say, the economy of the United States, or the economy, all this Singapore, and whatever, and what they quote all these things. I myself lived in Denmark, and in the Scandinavian countries. Actually, I've lived in Sweden for quite some time. I lived in Denmark for quite some time, and I lived in the Netherlands for quite some time. All these countries, by the way, it is not about you earn 10 shillings and that one earns 500 shillings. The people who earn 500 shillings are actually paying for the healthcare of the people who earn 10 shillings. They don't complain. They don't start saying, why are you forcing houses on us? They don't start saying, why are you forcing healthcare on us? Because what the government and what the people have understood is that there will always be the rich, the average, and the poor. But you cannot, as a government, say that I'll only provide health care for the rich because only the rich can afford. That's not government. Government is ensuring that there is equity and equality when it comes to basic needs and rights of all your citizens. So saying that you're forcing houses on people is the rich actually saying that I do not want to play my patriotic role of contributing my taxes to ensuring that those below the poverty line are housed and have basic health care and have food on the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mheshimiwa, looking at the overview, the months left, the years left ahead for Kenyans, do you see hope? Do you see optimism?
Oh, yes.
Is there a day that Kenyans will wake up and say, okay, fine, we went through a rough patch, but we are here now, we are...
What are you talking about? Kenyans are, even today, they woke up and they're like, hey, at least mafuta ilishuka. What are you saying? There are Kenyans who today they are like, hey, last month I bought fuel at this much. This month I've saved 3,000. So don't forget that don't buy into that pessimist attitude. That will we ever wake up to? First of all, the fact that you're waking up means this country has peace. The fact that you're saying, will we wake up to? There are other places you're not waking. West Bank, are people waking up to anything? People are being bombed in their sleep. So the fact that you're even waking up to is like, there is a country, it is peaceful, I have woken up. Yes? Okay. Basic healthcare, and that is why I'm passionately talking about, are we legislating for development or are we legislating against the people of Kenya to punish them? Because things, as we continue to argue, there are people in hospitals who need NHIF, who need affordable healthcare, universal healthcare. So I am very optimistic. I believe this far, first of all, the fact that we can see the prices of food items coming down is an indication that in 17 months, we have already started feeling the effect of good policies, good governance, and a president who actually cares to implement the promises that he went out and sold to the people during campaigns.
Your parting shot, Mheshimiwa?
My parting shot. Allow me to talk about the women part and then also on government as a whole. Yes. My parting shot, I will say this. On the issue of the deaths, the gender-based violence that we are seeing, the femicide, I think there are very low hanging fruits that we can easily implement in terms of policy and regulations. And I really want to call upon the Minister of ICT. And I'm doing it publicly here because, you know, sometimes people say, you have not been talking, but they are not on my phone seeing me talking with the Minister of ICT. So I'm doing it publicly, but I've also done it directly to him. I would like to see Eli Dowalo literally in the next 7 days. Yeah, I'm that kind of person who gives timelines. In the next 7 days, Mheshimiwa Eli Dowalo should put down regulations ready to take to Parliament when we open session in terms of the data protection and in terms of having physical offices for these online institutions that really are like ghost institutions that we cannot hold accountable. If Airbnb was physically here, there was a person, there was a license, they were paying taxes locally, then we would be able to say we are paralyzing your business until, for instance, you make sure that the safety of your patrons of that business is taken care of. So on the femicide issue, there are things government can do. One, regulations should be fronted that can now further put in the safety measures. Two, the gender desks are not working. And this one, I have spoken to the Minister of Gender, Aisha Juma, but I want to say it here. We need to sit down as leaders in that space and first of all accept that the gender desks are not working. They're not working. We have to accept. Why are they not working is what we need to sit down and within 30 days change it so that it can work. And finally, on the issue of government and judiciary and all this that's been going on, I think we need to be fair to all arms of government, to the legislators, to the judiciary, and to the executive. Dialogue is a must. We cannot work in isolation. We have to have dialogue. And so I'm happy with the dialogue that has gone on. And two, government is working. The president is working. Things are working, and it's definitely getting better.
Mheshimiwa Gloria Orwoba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We hope and look forward to keep, checking and seeing the progress of the promises that you made in the plan. And we, of course,
hold me accountable for pads and diapers. Keep holding me accountable. It's what I champion for the pads, and I will make sure if it's the one thing that I do, I'm going to make sure that space that I have some impact within that.
By the way, shall we be seeing a situation where we call you Governor Gloria Orwoba? Do you have such ambitions?
I I have bigger ambitions, but you know, in career, you can't just jump from intern to director.
Okay.
So I need some, I'm working on it.
You're
I'm
working
working
on
on
it.
it. So
All right.
I have some ambition there.
Gloria Orwoba, Senator nominated.
Thank
Senator,
you.
thank you so much for joining us on the program. My name is George Maringa. I'll see you next time. In fact, tomorrow on the People's Court, we have a different kind of program tomorrow. You want to stand by for that. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Stay safe and be kind to one another.